Torah means teaching, right? So it's kind of the teaching. It's the voice place, the unity that Moses was, was kind of basking in. And and I think he says there in the piece at some point that the other languages are actually rooted in Torah. Here to Sfat Emet and Parshat Devarim, the beginning of the book of Deuteronomy, book of Devarim. I'm going to give instructions about how to find the Hebrew text of the Sfat Emet, of his commentary on Sefaria.org. For those of you who are watching, going to be watching this on YouTube, you can go to the end of the video, and the instructions about how to find the text in Sefaria.org is pasted there, so you can follow the instructions and pull up the text and have it in front of you as you're watching the video. So, Bamidrash Marpeh Lashon Etz Chaim. In the Midrash, it says this is a verse from Proverbs, Marpeh Lashon Etz Chaim V'selef Ba Shever Beruach. And that means that the tongue, or the language of the Torah is healing. Etz Chaim here means the Torah, and the Midrash here in relation to that says that this teaches us that HaTorah merapet et halashon v'chule. The Torah is healing our language, our speech. The Chatav Ba'er et HaTorah, as it says in our parsha. So Moses, it says that Moses, at the beginning of the book of Devarim, is Ba'er, interpreting this Torah. And it says so in, this is the book of Deuteronomy, first chapter, verse 5, Be'ever HaYarden, Be'eretz Moav, Ho'il Moshe Be'er et HaTorah hazot lemor. So Moshe took his this opportunity to clarify the Torah. So the Sfat Emet says here, Darshu Chazal b'shiv'im lashon piresh lahem. So Rashi, or sages, interpret this to mean that Moses interpreted the Torah through 70 different languages.
He translated the Torah into the 70 root languages of the world in front of all the Jewish people 36 days prior to his demise, on the cusp of the Jewish people entering into the land of Israel.
Why? Because this was preparation to the conquering of the 7 nations that lived in the land of Israel. They're at the border they're at the Jordan River, and they're about to cross after Moshe is going to die. And he's explaining here why is it why is Moshe translating this into 70 languages? Because of the 7 nations, the Canaanite nations that live in the land of Israel. Asher mistameh hem hayu shoresh hashiv'im umot, which apparently these 7 nations were the root of the 70 nations of the entire world. ובזה שנתפרשה להם התורה בעין לשון, and through having the Torah being translated in 70 languages, ידעו כי מוכנים הם לכבוש עולמות. This is how they knew it was a sign to them. Would you say that? It's sort of like a that's what the preparation is. This sort of like their marching orders, right? And they're now ready to go ahead and conquer the promised land. כי הכל נטלו בני ישראל בכוח התורה. Because everything that the people of Israel took was in the context or in the force of the Torah. In other words, if it wasn't because of Torah, that land would not have been given to them, and they would not have been able to conquer it. והנה עצם בני ישראל הם התורה האמיתית. בלשון הקודש מדרגת משה רבינו עליו השלום.
The essence of the power, the spiritual power with which they will be able to take over the land of Israel, is through the Torah, and the Torah has the power of a special language, the Hebrew language, which we call Lashon HaKodesh, the holy tongue. There's a spiritual energy involved here, which is the basis of what he's trying to explain. But the bottom line is, the question, the twofold question that the Sfas Emes is asking us is, number one, what is the purpose of the leader translating this book into 70 languages in front of 3 million people who didn't speak any of these languages? They only spoke Hebrew. What's the point of it? And number two, if it was important for some reason that the Jewish people had to hear this Torah regurgitated in literally 70 times in 70 languages, which they didn't understand, why was this done why wasn't it done when they left Egypt? Why only now? The key to the answer is going to be found in the specialness, the special quality of the Hebrew language, which makes it different from every other man-created language in the world.
So, בעצם בני ישראל הם התורה האמיתית. So the true Torah in that language is the essence of the people of Israel, of the Jewish people, which is Madrigat Moshe Rabbeinu Alav Shalom, which is the level or the high level of Moses, our teacher, may peace be upon him. Shemikodem Amar Lo Ish Dvarim Anochi, who initially, when God is engaging with him, Moses says, "No, don't send me. I'm not a man of words." Right? That's one of those paradoxical moments in the Torah when God is sending Moshe to basically take the people of Israel out of Egypt. He says, "Why me? I can't do it. I'm not a man of words," because he has to talk to the Pharaoh, etc., and on behalf of the people of Israel. Hu b'chinat hakol, which is in the aspect of sound.
So there's a difference between words and a voice. A voice is undifferentiated sound. Now there's a disadvantage to differentiated sound in that you can't be word specific. But the advantage of kol, voice, literally in Hebrew, over dibur, is that kol is all-inclusive in the sense that every human being has a voice.
Right.
So Moses
it unifies everybody.
Right. Moses was on such a high level. He was an all-encompassing soul. He was on the level of voice, where he could interact and be with everybody in the world. Right. He understood everything and everybody in the world. And God was telling him, you have to bring that down into a very specific box right now called Dibur. And he said, I'm not a man of Dibur. I'm a man of Kol.
Of everybody, of everything.
Of everybody.
Yeah.
And God said, but we're going into a new stage of the world, of the creation of the world now. We're going from Kol, undifferentiated, to differences, diversity.
Right. Yeah.
That was the key. And it's going to be expressed through the Torah, which is given in a very specific language.
Right.
But then, as we'll see, we have to now give branches to that for a specific reason, which we'll discuss.
Right. So we're getting to that soon. But I just want to say that the reframing of the Sfat Emet here is that usually we think about Moses saying, "I'm not a man of words." It's like because he had a stutter. It's like I have this deficiency. But he's saying, no, he didn't have a deficiency. It was at such a high level. It's the opposite. Like, I'm too high a level for this. Right? וידוע כי בכל אין הפרש רק בדיבור, as you said, and as it is known, voice does not differentiate, only speech does. יש מינים שונים לפי הדיבור, there are different kinds of people according to different kinds of speech. לכן התפרשות התורה בעין לשון, therefore the translation of the Torah to 70 languages, ובחינת הדיבור, is on the level of speech. שיש כמה מיני התנהגות וכולם נמשכים מהתורה, meaning that there's different kinds of, I guess, operative instructions that come from the Torah, or different kinds. How would you translate התנהגות here in context?
Has a personality. Has a personality. Very specific to its culture. That's why we see today a big stress and tension regarding the use of words, of language, because if you control language, you control everything. And different countries, different cultures have very specific languages, and you know that if you have a translator translating at the United Nations, you're not getting 100% of what the intention of that guy is trying to say. You might be getting like this, but you're not getting like this.
You're not getting the nuance.
The nuance. And what God is saying is that, listen, the language of the creation of the world is Hebrew, is the holy tongue.
Yeah.
But now we're going to need to communicate with others.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to somehow bring the holy tongue down into this world.
Yeah. And he says all these different styles and cultures all draw somehow from the Torah, כולם נמשכים מן התורה, אבל בחינת משה רבנו, באחדות הכל עצם התורה. But the aspect, the level of Moses, our teacher, peace be upon him, of being in that realm of the oneness, the unity of voice, is really the true essence of the Torah. There's an essence that's even deeper than the particular language that it's written in, is what he's saying. וזה היה כל הפחד שיראו בני ישראל להילחם עם הזין אומות, שהיה להם עוד התפשטות כוח התורה. And this was the fear that the people of Israel had about confronting the 7 nations, Canaanite nations in the land of Israel, שלא היה להם עוד התפשטות כוח התורה, because they did not have the spreading of the force of Torah through the B'ayin Lashon, through the 70 languages. וזה שנאמר, וישיבו אותנו דבר.
When the Jewish people demanded that spies, before they conquered the land, go in to do a reconnaissance mission, it said, the verse says, let them go already, and they will bring back a word, meaning they'll tell us, are they strong, are they weak, are they a lot of armies, not a big army. But here the Sfas Emes is saying, because Rashi over there says a very strange comment. When it says, and we will return a word, Rashi says, they will tell us what language these people speak. Now that's a very strange thing. I want to know how many cannons they have. I want to know, how many fortresses they have. What do I care what language they speak? I assume they speak a different language.
Right.
But the point, and that's what they got scared about, because they saw that, hey, we're Lashon HaKodesh, we're Hebrew-speaking people. We're the Holy Tongue people. Right. How are we going to have a chance at assimilating and joining in and trying to conquer a nation that is on a whole different level of understanding the world?
Yeah. And so the word davar, it's not just anything or something. It's the actual languages of those people. That's the
Right.
twist here. It's a beautiful it's a beautiful reframing again. באיזה לשון הם מדברים, איך למשוך כוח התורה באותו הלשון. What language are they speaking, and how to use the pull out the force of Torah in that language.
Right.
So that was instruction to the Meraglim. Ach be'emet lo haya adayin hazman lichbosh. But in truth, this is not yet. There wasn't yet the time. That's why they failed.
Right. That's why we waited 38. This was 38 years prior.
That's right.
And it wasn't the time to conquer.
Right. And now that the time has come, and that's why now they're interpreting the Torah in 70 languages, and that is the connection to the seven people and the different languages, etc.
So this week we begin in synagogues around the world. We begin the fifth of the five books of Moses as we go around the cycle again. The fifth book is Deuteronomy, in Hebrew Devarim, words, interestingly enough. And here we are taught at the beginning of the fifth book that Moses, 35 days before he dies, he explains the Torah in the 70 root languages of the world. And it's not explained in the Torah. Why? Not explained.
Right.
So according to the Hasidic approach of the Sfat Emet, he explains that now they were amongst themselves as a one people. Now they were going into the world.
Yeah.
And they had to have an effect on the world. Jewish people have to have an effect on their world. Mm-hmm. We care about the world. Mm-hmm. Everyone in the world. And now they were going to have to so-called conquer the people of the world. And it doesn't mean in a militaristic sense. It means that we have to share the wisdom and beauty of Torah with everyone in the world. But if I'm going to sit here with my holy tongues, I'm not going to get anywhere. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we have to know how to talk to people in their language, on their level, wherever they are. These are pagans. We have to know how to speak with them, how to get to them, to explain what we're all about and what monotheism is all about. And the only way to do that is to come down from our high horse and to be able to express ourselves like we're doing this morning in English. Not talking in Hebrew, we're talking in English. That's our language. And not only that, then this I'll conclude that the Sfasim is saying something more. It's not just that now we get to talk to people in other languages, but every language in the world is now infused, with a holiness that was rooted in the Hebrew language.
Right.
So it's like branches from that tree now. So we can sit here in English and we get the same holy message that we would be if we were saying this over in the original Hebrew. I guess that's.
No, thank you. And it's what it brings to mind for me as you're talking is that the word Torah means the teaching, capital T, right? Torah means teaching, right? So it's kind of the teaching. It's the voice place, the unity that Moses was, was kind of basking in, and I think he says there in the piece at some point that the other languages are actually rooted in Torah. So it's not that we're bringing them something strange, as it were. If we were interacting with other traditions and, we're bringing something from Torah, we're not bringing something they don't know. We're bringing something that they're already rooted in.
Yes, everything in the world has to contain, ultimately everything in the world is God's energy.
In the teaching, right? In the teaching, the unity, right?
Right, there is no separation, ultimately. That's the level of Kol.
Right. And sometimes there's these really sweet, I'm not going to make a big theory out of it, but there's these sweet moments where there are words in English that I see the root in Hebrew, and it just tickles me, Let's give you an example. The word, what's the word for heart in Hebrew? So the word for heart in Hebrew is lev. And what's the word for, what does the lev do in English? love, right? So lev, love, right? So you see so there here we are talking about love, and it's sourced in the Torah in the word lev. And where do we find the word lev in Torah? So the very last letter of the Torah, the very last word of the Torah is the word Israel. So the very last letter of the Torah is Lamed. And the very first word of the Torah is Bereshit. The very first letter of the Torah is Vav. So you put Lamed and Vav together, you get Lev. So you put the end of the Torah and the beginning of the Torah together, you get the word Lev, which translates in English as love. So when I hear the Sfatim talking about that, there's those little vignettes, the vignettes of language that it's like, wow, there it is. It's happening. Anyway, may we be blessed. And again, as always, I got to mention that you can subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. It means a lot to us. Um, hit the like button and comments below, etc. We will see you again next Wednesday. Toda rabah. Peace. Shalom. Okay, so to find the text, you go to sefaria.org. And when you're there, you're going to click on the three horizontal lines in the top left. And this is the page you're going to see. You're going to scroll down to the section that's called texts. And you go to the bottom right, click on more. After you click on more, you're going to look for Chassidut on the bottom left. And you click on Chassidut. And here you're going to scroll down in this section to the subsection that is called Other Chassidut Works. And on the bottom right, you'll see Sifat Emet. This is the commentator that we're studying here today. You go to the top where it says Sifat Emet Genesis Bereshit 1 and click on the drop-down menu. Go to the table of contents and go to the book of Deuteronomy. And you click on the book of Deuteronomy, or Devarim in Hebrew. And here we're going to click on Devarim. It's the Parsha of Devarim. This is this week's Parsha. And in here we have sections, and we're going to click on section 12. And we're going to be reading the first paragraph in section 12. That starts with Bamidrash Marpeh Lashon. So